Oh,
Okay. I guess a quick intro. Welcome everyone to the Kubernetes 6 Karpenter issue triage meeting for November 24th. Just started recording, so let's get started.
right. Let's get started. Uh, okay. We can take a look at the older issues first. It's like this is a price improvement threshold. Uh, is this the node overlay thing? Can we close this out?
No, I think this is around consolidation. Um, if we want to have some sort of like a threshold for us to actually go in and well, when we're deciding to actually consolidate nodes, this is not node overlay.
Yeah, I think we're in a bit of an odd spot with how we triage features in general. Like this should probably be we should probably put it back in triage accepted for the time being. Um, because
Mhm.
it is a feature. It's not accepted in that um, we're not necessarily saying we'd go forward with it. Um, I do wonder if we want to do, we don't need to talk about this too much now, and that's derail. Maybe we can bring it up in the next working group meeting. I've seen a lot of other upstream projects shift over so that all features are just GitHub discussions instead of GitHub issues, which I feel like might be a better format,
Mhm.
but maybe something to think about and we can talk about
I mean,
in the next meeting. Oh, um, you're not a member of the org yet. Anyone else able to do the triage labels?
Yes. When you're looking up?
That was the price improvement threshold.
Yes.
I think the better time is like, can we just review this one of the RFC? I think this came in like 2 days ago.
I don't think this is the right meeting to review our season.
So like we just take a look at the issues then.
Yeah, yeah, just because like if no one's looked at the if no one's looked at an RFC yet,
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to have any consensus in this meeting. Like the goal of this meeting is largely triaging, not closing on topics.
Scheduling and consolidation benchmarking.
I think this should just be triage accepted, and we're actively working on this.
Yeah, I think this Jigisha is adding a test for the benchmarking, and there's like a couple of metrics that also getting added.
Yeah. Yeah, I think some of these are just going to be like they were triage accepted, but the way the Kate spot works is it removes triage accepted after a year. So I'd
Mm-hmm.
say anything that had triage accepted and it was removed for that reason, we can just go ahead and add triage accepted back. If you want to just go ahead and drop the, oh, so is it because, oh, it's
Like,
because of the priority importance soon that it keeps getting removed.
Also, wait, can we just close the issue? We did
We
merge.
haven't, Are
Oh, I mean,
they
I merged
fully
Nathan's.
merged? Is that all we're doing for it?
That's the initial round at least.
I would say wait till, I mean, obviously we'll continue expanding them in the future. I would say wait until the full, like all of the initially scoped work is merged.
Okay, well, this is the initially scoped work.
Okay, if we think all the initially scoped work is merged, let's just close this then.
Seems like I
Oh,
can't close this either.
Yeah, do you want to just put the links in the chat and one of us with permissions can?
I'll do this one because I want to do I want to leave a note.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Support pods owned by custom daemon set like controllers. Treats differently from other type of pods.
Yeah, this one was. I remember we discussed this one previously. This is like you've got third-party constructs that do the same thing as daemon sets, where it's like one pod per node. But of course, it's not a daemon set, so we don't know to model it like one.
So they want non-daemon set to get modeled like daemon set. I thought it's the other way around.
Well, yes, because there might be like I don't know. I don't know what like third-party construct there could be, but sounds like vCluster has their own daemon set like thing that they want to tell Karpenter that, hey, pods that are created by this are modeled like a daemon set.
Some sort of a construct to instruct Karpenter to treat it like a daemon set.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, there was more complication. Yeah, I can maybe, if you want to send me a link, I can follow up on this. I think there was some offline discussion on this that didn't get moved into the issue. There's some more complications here that make this a little bit more difficult for us to support, at least the way it's suggested, like the annotation. So,
Yeah, I think there was a interesting doc that I read recently that Ellis pointed me to called like I can't. It was basically about duck typing in Kubernetes.
hmm,
This would be a very interesting candidate for that kind of stuff as long as you could figure out what about the daemon set like objects have in common and you could duck type on them. I don't know if there's even a library to support it yet, but that's the type of
yeah,
thing I would like to do here.
yeah, but more importantly, know that we should duck type it because you can have things with the same API that do very semantically different things. And I think that's common when you're talking about things like a daemon set or things like these pod controllers.
So they would want to treat uh I mean in the sense like what are the like what is their use case? Like treating
The use case is you have an orchestration object like a daemon set that isn't a daemon set, but it does the same thing as a daemon set. And you want Carpenter to account for it.
I see.
So the hard part is Carpenter's scale from zero rather
Hmm.
than like cluster autoscaler being scale from one.
Hmm.
So we need a way to know without any pods for that daemon set like thing being provisioned that there is going to be a pod per node provisioned. Yeah,
Uh,
so that's basically the bit that I'm going to make sure is encoded in the issue. Um, I think it's a valid use case, but it's not one with a clear solution, and it would need design.
right, confusing disruption budgets for maintenance windows. Disallow disruption for underutilized. Permanently disruption for drifted for 10 minutes every day until
Okay. I've got a copy paste response for this. If you give me a link, I can follow up with this too.
Uh, do you want to explain? Like the granularity that they are asking.
It's just a question of how to do this. And this is possible. It's a really common question with disruption budgets because they're kind of modeled in the opposite of what a number of people think, which is that it's default allow all and you constrain them, rather default deny all and you build like allowed windows. So yeah, if you send me a link, I can just go ahead and respond to this.
And my system is hung.
Oh, I got the issue number, so that's fine. I'll find it later.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to kill my Firefox. Okay. Support, this is done. Define a way to treat deployment pods as daemon set. I think this and the above one are one and the same, right?
Sounds the same from the title.
Okay. The next one. The node repair graduation. So we already graduated this to stable feature, right? Recently. Did we not?
No, we haven't graduated node repair. It's still technically beta.
Maybe we can do that this week as part of secondary. When I can take a look.
I think that there were some outstanding issues for node repair in our queue that we had accepted and needed to look at for graduating it. It's not just as simple as flipping the switch.
Mhm.
I mean, it's here, right? Clear that 2042 is an issue.
Node repair respects PDB's termination grace periods when node pull does not have termination grace period. Emmanuel, if you're on the call, did you get a chance to take a look at this?
I think he dropped.
All right. Moving on to that, since we do have an outstanding issue with repair, let's just wait for those two issues to get closed out before graduating that to stable. Multi-node consolidation delayed, stuck. Option. Okay, I think this has not been looked at. I'll try and take a look at this this week or next. Documentation inaccuracy. Min values, sample this min values, spec B. Yeah, maybe we need a better example of how like we define min values in our node pools. I don't see any inaccuracies here. Like this still determines that we need to pick at least two different instance categories. All right.
Looks like we have an ask from Max in the chat to talk about the issue he linked, if we want to do that.
If I could, then, but if
Oh, yeah.
not, like, okay, thanks. I know Sumuka, you responded to this, but
Mhm.
from what I understand about limits, or at least node limits in the node pool, I guess the issue is about before you, like, if you have, 0 nodes and you have a limit of 3 and you burst up to like 5 nodes from a workload, I would sort of expect that just straight up would not be allowed to happen. But from your response, like, it seems like eventually there's a steady state where it'll go down, or am
Mhm.
I interpreting what you were saying
It might
incorrectly?
go, it might not go down, but the way right now the limits are implemented for dynamic node pools is if you are let's say that if you have uh, the pods that you're trying to provision nodes to during the provisioning loop, like it checks for that, like if it can create any more node claims, and we have limits in two different places, like has the limit already been breached? If the limit has already been breached, then it essentially like we do not provision any more node claims and nodes. So in order to validate that, like what you can probably try out is that uh like gradually increase the number of pods in your example. So once you hit the limit, like uh it should not scale up over the limits. This is
Right.
because like if you burst, say that if you go from 2 to 5, now you have 3 pods in that particular scheduling loop, and we look at those 3 pods. In order to schedule 3 pods, you need to create 3 different node claims, and that is checked against the existing node pool resources, which only shows 2 nodes.
Is that how it works for other resources as well, like CPU and memory? Like,
I think so. That's how it.
okay.
Yeah. You can try this, or like I can even try this and then get back to you. But I'm sure that this gradually scaling up uh, should actually block the node launches after once the limit is breached.
No, I did try, like, at 5 nodes, I tried to scale up more and it didn't work. So like that part, I know is correct. I guess I just expected it to work differently from what I think, but I guess, is it infeasible for it to work that way, that it just blocks nodes, or is that like against, Carpenter principles or something? Because I guess it just doesn't make sense in terms of limits to me.
Yeah,
Uh,
so I think I can speak to that, Samuka. The They are soft limits. Like we know that they're soft limits, right? I understand that like it's still then a question of how soft. I think that there's a interesting conversation to be had here about like the reason why I think the node limit happened for history. I think the node limit happened after CPU and memory. And because we don't know the in-flight CPU, like we don't know what CPU and memory like the in-flight nodes are going to resolve to, we punted on that as being like, okay, well, you might go over the limits because of your like the nodes you actually get back from the EC2 API or whatever you're using might be different from what you expect. And so let's not try to bother to do this like in-flight calculation to make the limits hard. And then that naturally mapped onto nodes when the nodes were just added as another resource on the side. However, nodes obviously don't have that. Like you're not going to ask for one node from EC2 and it gives you three. So in terms of like tracking these in-flight requests and saying, hey, well, when we're at like when we're close to the limit, let's make sure that we're only asking for in-flight node claims that go up to your limit and not over is something that we could consider. There are trade-offs. Specifically, it's going to be a performance trade-off. So the harder you make the limit, the more Karpenter is going to have to like validate to see if the node claim is going to like if in-flight node claims are ever going to resolve before it gets you that capacity. So it will be a bit of a larger discussion. I don't know if there's like a quick, easy bug fix here per se, as much as we are changing, like we would be making a different trade-off.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I that makes a lot of sense, like the historical, perspective on this. So
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I think there's room for the limits to be harder, especially if like a lot of users are running into this. I know you have been lately. Um, I don't know what your use case is specifically to get like hard limits into Karpenter or like to have Karpenter not go above limits. But when it comes to these kind of like burst scenarios, I think the general vibe has been that like, well, you've requested the pod, so we're going to try to satisfy that. And like limits are like a secondary thing.
I mean, if it's a valid use case to actually set a hard limits, we can. That's what we do in the static node
We
pools.
hard limits are a very different conversation. Sorry. What we're talking about here is hardening the existing soft limits that would still end up being soft. So, the number one example for why they're soft limits is drift. You could run into like security issues if you're at limits because we don't have terminate then replace because it's replace then terminate. You could, once you're at your limit, you're basically never going to patch or drift any of your nodes. You also can't consolidate then. So you're stuck basically in that cluster state and Karpenter just shuts down. Um, but that is different from like tracking in-flight resources and like seeing if we can't make like slow down as we get to the limit to try to not go over it. Um,
We do both for the static node pools for now. And like
we
my
slow
understanding
down.
is that we wanted to do something similar for dynamic node pools, but we did not have a clear sort of a way to do that, or like a sort of reason to do that. So
Are you talking terminate then replace, or are you talking about slowing down?
I'm talking about having in-flight tracked so that like we do not go over the limits. And I'm
Yeah.
also talking about like if you are at the limit, like you cannot like replace those nodes in case of drifts or disruptions. Like even that is taken care. Like right now for static node pools, like if your node is at the limit, like you cannot replace them at all. It's gonna get stuck. I understand that that's not the decision that we currently have for dynamic, but that's what we wanted to change in static and wanted to have the same sort of mechanism for dynamic.
Yeah. I definitely think that there's some interesting conversations there.
Yep.
okay. I guess to speak further on my use case, so we want to provide Carpenter as service, and we have certain SLAs about how many nodes can be like in a cluster admin's cluster. And if we were to, if we were to set this limit to like 500 nodes or something, obviously if someone were to create, a deployment all at once or something that has like, I don't know, a workload that scales over 500 nodes, like that would not fit our use case. But if they were to do it slowly, like I guess a normal user, then it would work. So I guess it's sort of murky on that sense. Like I think if we use the existing implementation, like it'll be okay most of the time. But I think for us, it would be better if it worked like the way where we would track the resources before, I guess, the node claims are being created. Um, and on that note, I have a work in progress, well, sort of like testing PR that sort of does that. Um, and from what I put in the PR, I didn't think it was that much of a change. I mean, I know there's like performance trade-offs, but um, I mean, I could like link it in this issue and maybe we could like further this conversation. But um, yeah, I guess that's my thoughts on this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can
I mean, sorry, go ahead, Sumika.
yeah, you can also refer to the current limit implementation for the static node pool. So that also takes into account it's a hard limit, like it will never burst over. It uh, ensures that the in-flight requests as well as during disruption, like it's accounted for. Yep.
Right. I
As
think,
for path forward,
sorry,
I
go
think
ahead.
that PR would be interesting. I don't know if this is RFC worthy. In the meantime, in terms of like, I think there are some questions that need to be answered though. Like, is this a flag that you're proposing will be like settable? Is it some like, are you proposing switching the default? Like, there are some larger questions, but I don't think it's something that's like a flat out non-starter. Um, if that makes sense. I just don't want you to get deep into the PR and like have something working and like all the tests and stuff and then find out that like people hate it. So maybe like a tiny little RFC that's like, I'm proposing a flag and yeah, all that stuff, and you might be able to get it through pretty easy.
Would an issue work here, or I guess a separate issue, or like I guess tiny RFC?
Yeah, that's the thing is I don't know if RFC is really with it. I think like at least the bare minimum is you need to like in the issue you should say I propose we fix it with like a flag or no, and then like um, how you plan to track in-flight requests and how we should treat them. Like, should we be smart about like when node claims go like fail? Like if we get errors back from whatever cloud provider implementation we have, is this something that then we'll like say, oh, those node claims will still sit around. That way you can like look at them for debugging, but they don't count for in-flight requests and stuff like that. I think Smooka's probably got ideas there because of the static tracking. Um, but it's worth.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Um, I will follow up on that. Thanks, guys. That's
Yeah.
all from me.
All right. Uh, let's move on. So the ask for vertical node scaling within the node pool. Think can we use some sort of node repair to actually get around this issue?
Well, so a more interesting question here is why can't they just do this already? Like in a node pool, if you want to change the like I think what they're talking about is like the instance types are already okay for their node pool and they just want to move the nodes to or like they want to like have the pods be moved onto bigger nodes because the requests go up. In which case, like like I don't know why they're saying like instead of a migration where we move to a new node pool. I'm like, why do you need to use a new node pool? If they're saying like, oh hey, we noticed that like this workload needs more requests overall, isn't that like a pod thing?
I mean, can they change their pod requests like once the like after the pod is applied?
I mean, once we support in-place pod autoscaling, yeah.
I mean, if they, yeah, I
Right
guess.
now we don't. Like right now, in-place pod autoscaling doesn't work because Carpenter consolidation thinks that the pod will come back as the same size it is rather than the size it used to be.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what they want to achieve with vertically scaling a node. Like they want to scale the underlying capacity based on what their pod is demanding. Like if the pod requests is needs more, like if it changes its requests, uh, then like if then it'll be placed on a node to account for the requests.
Because like if they're just saying, oh, hey, we've noticed that these node types don't have enough bandwidth for our workload, you could just remove them for your node pool, add new ones that have that, and you're done. Like we can't vertically scale the bandwidth on an EC2 instance,
And also like if
you
I
know?
mean like I mean you can be really creative about it. So this is the sort of thing that you can use node monitoring agents, uh, like some sort of agents that actually adds like status on the nodes. Based on that, like you just ask the carpenter to actually repair those nodes.
Yeah, but we would
Like,
just replace it with a node from your node pool.
yep,
And that isn't guaranteed to, like, you need to fix your pod requests, you know?
yep. Yeah, I can just add a write-up. Allow circuit breaking controls to stall drift and consolidation actions. I think this is the reason why we have node disruption budgets uh, to control the timings.
Well, wouldn't this be
It,
also solved by just like the node doesn't come up as healthy?
yep. I mean, if the node doesn't come up as healthy, like without the replacement nodes that are healthy, like we do not even disrupt the older ones. S- So the disruption to the node is on the assumption that the replacements come up. Otherwise, we do not really disrupt those. Oh, it looks like Jonathan already has a recommendation. Yeah, looks like there is already a couple of recommendations. Can just move on. Add resource slices to node overlay API. I think this is a feature request. Or is Jason looking into this as part of the DRA work?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him. Oh, I think they were talking about doing this and then they decided not to.
I see.
In fact, if you scroll down, isn't there a RFC? Yeah, there's an RFC.
Oh, that's the add DRA node. Okay, this is the existing RFC, no?
Yeah,
That
yeah, yeah.
getting prioritized and not. Do you know if yeah, I remember reading about resource slices. I do not exactly know if this particular issue gets accounted for in this RFC or not. Right. Document expire after in more detail. If expire after actually doesn't like honor the node disruption budgets, right? Like it's bypasses the node disruption budget, if I'm understanding it right.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, I did not get that from the docs anywhere. Maybe we should just call that out.
The docs do live in provider. This should add a note that says this belongs in the provider repo. The docs aren't maintained by upstream.
Mhm. Okay. So this is another provider implementation for Karpenter doc, I believe. Like we do not have such a thing documented in our uh, like Karpenter SIG.
Yeah, this should also be moved. Unless they're talking about in the README.
No,
Yeah, if they're talking about their a
yeah,
README, then
yeah.
which it does look like they.
Think the RA Quark driver for Carpenter. I'll sync up with Jason since it, I think. Oh, I think, yeah, as part of the DRA work, someone is taking up implementing DRA Quark driver for Karpenter. I remember Jason talking about this. Uh, yeah, I'll speak with him and probably assign whoever's working on this. And more documentation about node overlays price. It should be price per hour. Like all our pricing information is price per hour, right? Uh, Okay.
Yeah, once again, a docs issue probably should be downstream.
Can you close this one out? I think there is a corresponding issue in the provider. Examples do not match text. Oh, there is a PR for this particular issue. Looks like OCI implemented a provider for Karpenter. I guess we can open up a PR once they have an update on their provider implementation. Should we move this to triage accepted? Not really an issue, but I
Yeah,
guess
triage accepted.
the question is like what these sort of issues like so that we don't spend time looking into them. Uh, they just
I'll mark them as looking for help as well. Just if someone wants to
Mhm.
do that, they can. Also basically telling them that if they want to update it, they're more than welcome to.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if they don't have a provider, they don't want to have that peer.
Oh, what they're saying is, could they make it more clear that this is not officially supported? And I'm like, yeah, you guys can make that clear. Go ahead and update the doc to say it's not officially supported by OCI.
Mhm. Yeah, I think this is interesting. Like update these things dynamically based on the actual instance resource and not on the static value provided on the EC2 node class. Yeah, either way it belongs in the provider.
Which Jason's already marked it as.
Do you want to close this out?
Sure.
All right. Right, since we are almost at time. Is there anything that we want to look at? Any important urgent issues? If no, yeah, I'm gonna figure out how to fix this particular guy. All right. Thanks, folks. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks.